Amigos, ¿cómo están ustedes? Muy buenas noches, esto es Monitor de Negocios, un servidor Efren Flores, como de costumbre, a nombre de todo el equipo que hace posible su programa, les da la más cordial de las entrevistas, deseándoles además muy buen comienzo de semana hábil. Tuvimos la oportunidad en días pasados en Mobile Forum, un evento de tecnología para empresas de Telefónica, de platicar con Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly es todo un personaje por sí mismo. Es uno de los fundadores, es cofundador de la revista Wired, que seguramente usted la conoce, que es especializada en tecnologías de la información y de la comunicación. Eso es lo que tuvimos oportunidad de platicar con Kevin. Nos encontramos aquí en el evento de Mobile Forum de Telefónica. Vamos a platicar con Kevin Kelly. Él es cofundador de la revista Wired, de la mundialmente conocida revista Wired de tecnologías de la información y de la comunicación. Kelly, Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Thanks a lot for being with us.
It's always a pleasure to be in Mexico and Mexico City because there's so much energy here. I just love it.
It's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And also a lot of contradictions, aren't there?
Of course, but that's present anywhere I go in the world. There's always contradictions and paradoxes and dilemmas, but that's the nature of it.
Of we human beings.
Yes, right.
And I think that this is a part of what you were talking in your conference exposition, the way in which we have to conciliate the interests, for instance, of traditional capitalists and the traditional capitalist model we've been having since the 18th century, with the new collaboration, the open collaboration model, which is just starting to become in this 21st century.
Right.
How do you see the way in which they can coincide and become friends?
Right. So it's very clear that markets can do many things. That the solution for many of our problems was turn it over to the market. This invisible hand will sort things out.
Sure.
But it turns out that there's also lots of things that it doesn't do. And the new model kind of that was looking at this was this idea of a kind of a decentralized hive mind that had no real leaders, no corporate organizational shape. It was this ad hoc mess.
That's the way in which we feel it works right now.
Right, and what we discovered was that even though we would think, well, that's not going to work, there were a lot of things that it could do that surprised us, and that it actually that you could go a lot further than you thought you could, and it turns out that it's actually one of the best ways to start something, even though it may not take you all the way, meaning that eventually you're going to have more organization, more control to get where you want it to go at the end. But in the very beginning, it's actually a fantastic way to start, meaning that you turn it over to this kind of decentralized process, and it gets it going to the point where then you can then refine and add organization to it. So that's been a surprise. Like, say, Wikipedia. Nobody, including me, thought Wikipedia that it was a good idea to have an encyclopedia that anybody could change. You say that's not going to work.
Yeah, but sure. It looked like nonsense.
It's nonsense. But there it goes. It's the best encyclopedia we've ever had. However, over time, Wikipedia has accumulated more and more rules. It becomes harder and harder for anybody to edit.
Yeah.
And eventually there'll be, some of the old encyclopedia stuff at the top to take the best articles and kind of, really freeze them. And so it's the best way to start, although you're going to have to add something as we go along. So in this kind of new world where I was talking about ownership, there's a shift in ownership now to access, and there's we have this kind of centralization that we saw in capitalism, and centralization of capital going to distributed crowdsourcing. All these things are degrees. It's not binary. It's not like you have just markets or not, or you have. They're all shades of this, and we're going to have a world in which there are many different versions. And so you can have some organizations which will be very centralized, and some organizations that will be very decentralized. It's not a world where there's one business model. There's a world in which there's 100 business models.
Yeah, that's right, because it's very hard for us to understand. You said also, for instance, that we won't be owning music, for instance, or we won't be owning
movies, books, even books.
So who's going to pay for them?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Who's going to pay for it? So I think what will happen is that you will subscribe to a book service. You will pay some amount of money a year. Let's say $100. And for $100, you will have access to any music, any movies, any books, in any language, written at any time, anywhere in the world, anytime you want to. So you're paying, but you're not paying per book. You're paying for access to the library.
Okay.
So
that's understandable because it's happening.
Right. So the money's flowing through, and maybe the money's being distributed by whether someone still reads your book or whatever. But there's still money flowing. It's just that it's not money for ownership. It's money for access. You have access to the library.
But anyway, so somebody's going to be defending its own or his own copyright rights, for instance.
Yes.
Or else. We don't know.
Defending copyright. Copyright is not so useful in a world where copies don't have any value.
Okay.
The issue in this world is not protecting people from ripping you off. It's just getting someone to pay you any attention at all. So the hurdle in this world is not people stealing your stuff. The hurdle is having people pay attention to you.
So laws are going to be changing.
Laws are changing.
Rights are going to be changing.
Rights are changing.
Financial models are going to be changing. For instance, crowdfunding that you also mentioned in your exposition. And so what we know right now is a bank or a banking system or the financial system of a country is going to be changing radically.
Yes, it is. It's also going to be disrupted. And banks are in a great position.
They don't like that.
Well, I know, but I mean, banks are one of the last institutions that those are customer satisfactions. Are customers satisfied with banks? Okay, so they're not. So you go to places where people are unsatisfied to look to where the disruption is going to happen.
Sure.
And a lot of the functions of banks came from because they were decentralized. Why shouldn't I be able to charge someone else interest? I should be able to do that. I should just drag my interest icon onto my payment and say, you owe me, and I'm going to charge your interest. Why can't I lend money to anybody?
Yeah, and you were telling us also that, for instance, in the States, I think, the Treasury or the FDIC is accepting now the equity funds from crowdfunding investors.
Right, it's called the JOBS, JOBS, just passed. It was passed earlier, but it just went into effect 2 days ago.
Okay.
And the effect is that there was lots of things in that legislation, but one of them was that it used to be that you could only accept investments in the shares of equity from qualified investors.
Sure.
Which means that you had to have like $1 million. You had to prove that you had $1 million in assets and that you were sophisticated.
Okay.
Well,
not anymore.
Not anymore. Not anymore is like anybody can take the $25 and you can say, give me $25 and I'll give you that percentage of my company. And will there be people who abuse this? Of course, but we will make up rules to help the people from taking advantage of that. In the meantime, there will be tons and hundreds of thousands of new businesses that are going to be started from that kind of available money.
Interesantísimo, como usted ve esta entrevista. Mañana vamos a continuar con ella, ciertamente. Yamile Riz, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo te va?
Muy bien, Efren.
¿Te llamó la atención el término este de disruptivo? Que estuvimos platicando mucho Kevin y un servidor. Disrupción significa que todos los modelos tradicionales que conocemos, como por ejemplo la economía capitalista, como se la entiende hoy por hoy, todo se va a romper, se va a desgajar para reconvertirse, uniéndose con otros modelos que van a ir surgiendo a través del tiempo, debido precisamente a los cambios que está habiendo con la tecnología.
Exacto.
Y los cambios sociales que está habiendo a nivel mundial y que lo estamos ya viviendo en todas partes. Entonces te obliga eso a crear nuevos modelos económicos, financieros, estratégicos, sociales, de convivencia, de colaboración entre las empresas. Ayer era tu enemiga tal empresa y por lo mismo era tu competidora. Hoy por hoy, para múltiples fines, va a ser también parte de tu negociación el ser productivo, haciendo negocios con esa tu competencia. De esto vamos a continuar platicando mañana con este hombre tan interesante, uno de los fundadores de la revista Wired.
Así es, y muy interesante lo que comentaba, justamente lo de la era digital y la tecnología, por ejemplo, Wikipedia, que también puede ser un arma de doble filo, ya que no sabemos si la información es 100% fidedigna, ¿no? Entonces también hay que tener mucho cuidado con eso.
Eso es muy importante, ¿no? Y se va a ir cerrando poco a poco lo de Wikipedia.
Exacto.
Pero ya platicaremos de eso y ya lo estamos sintiendo, ¿no? Ya no en cualquier página puedes meter la mano y meter la cuchara, ¿no?
Por supuesto, hay que ser muy cuidadosos en este tema. Claro que sí, pero ¿qué te parece si vamos a temas de sustentabilidad?
A ver, rápido, ¿sí?
¿Y usted se imagina que el sol del desierto del Sahara abasteciera de energía a toda la Unión Europea? Desde hace algunos años, expertos han propuesto un plan para instalar paneles solares en el desierto, esto con el fin de proporcionar electricidad renovable a toda Europa. Te comento, Efren y auditorio, que el Sahara también recibe 6 horas de energía solar que consume el mundo en 1 hora. La compañía Desertec planea construir decenas de centrales solares de Marruecos, Egipto, para que en 2050 proporcionen al menos el 15% del consumo eléctrico a toda Europa. Fantástico, ¿no?
Le van a meter en los próximos 400,000 millones de euros nada más los europeos. Gracias, Yamile.
De nada.
Gracias, amigos. Y mañana estaremos nuevamente con ustedes en punto de las 7:45. Hasta entonces.